New Stone Burst Druid. Just gonna go ahead and walk on in and start deleting things, man. Oh, we got damage reduction guy. Ooh. Ooh, 300! Nice. You can do crazy damage with this skill sometimes. Oh. Woohoo. Big damage. We need to make sure we are fortified because we have more damage reduction, obviously, once that is active. Once they are crowd controlled, man, it's game over. This build is actually really powerful, and I don't think I've seen that many people talk about how good Druid is, but we're going to go ahead and run through the 75. We'll show off the gameplay of the build. And we'll drop a build guide for it very soon. It's the last moments of the PTR here. But this was a big surprise, genuinely. Oh, this damage reduction, guys, I honestly feel like they should just be like deleted out of the game. I really hate dealing with them. Because sometimes like they're sitting in the very far back, you know? That big damage. And this is a build where if you build into crowd control for the boss, it'll need to be active to get the good damage. But yeah, this new skill is crazy. How it's supposed to work is it's supposed to be charged up, but if you have a certain amount of resource, it doesn't require it. But what you can do to get around it is run the Menorach Ring, which is in like every single one of my builds. Look at that, we're just one-shotted everything. Now, we could definitely go higher with this one, but 75 is like a pretty good like middle ground for a showcase. At least that's how I feel. For a build's performance. Well, look at that. We just like one-shotted everything. I'm pretty sure that you could probably do a 90 with this. But doing 100, it's just the bosses that just take too long, to be honest. And it's like that in the previous season as well. But yeah, it's cool because we're a human druid, and we can get crazy amounts of more damage. So we would get way more damage with this build. If we could swap an armor piece, and I'll show you that armor piece. It just requires a lot of greater affixes, and in PTR, no one really trades items, and that's what you need. There we go. Boom. I like that big explosion. It's very nice. Super satisfying. Go down over there now. Oh, that's a lot of damage, man. It's infinite resource too, just like our previous Druid build. But this is where I feel like the build doesn't perform as hot. That's kind of normal for a lot of builds. Look at the sick overlaps though. And another thing that kind of sucks with the Druid is you want Heightened Malice, but there's not 3 bosses to activate it on. Or unless you get like a really lucky one, you get like Shaman. He spawns in all those extra ones for you, but once we get him staggered, we will get more multipliers. Well, my fingers, I honestly get pretty tired with this build. But yeah, the new Stone Burst Druid. Pretty solid. Until you get to the boss, and then it's kind of like an average-ish performing build. But if I did happen to be able to run the chest armor that I want to run, and we'll talk about it because I want to show off some, like, you know, some little gameplay of this, but I still need to do a lot of work on the build. In fact, we're still running a legacy piece of gear, so there is definitely big room for improvement in this build. So let's go over like a quick little build guide, and also like type one up over Mobalytics eventually. But for now, this is what I'm going to go ahead and show off. So for starters, let's go over like kind of the newer things, and let's go over like the pros and the cons of this build. So one big con is if you're not transformed in the Druid, you don't really have good passes. This still works because it gives you the second part, which is just 15x damage. You do also get increased overpower damage, but this thing over here, you also get the overpower because you can get it because there's not really a last spirit boon thing to take. But basically, this is like the only thing that's like kind of good. You can maybe go for this, but this doesn't really do too much because you don't scale like hybrid in this build. But if you did want to run Bestial Rampage, you could run Vasili's Prayer, but then you aren't going to have problems with the resources as, well, how it works is Menorach Ring, you need a lot of cooldown reduction to get 100% uptime on Cataclysm, which is kind of what we try to go for here. So you can see the cooldown is 18.1, but it lasts for 18.75, and with extra rings of Endless Tempest. If you happen to get a Greater Affix Menorach Ring, right on PTR again, it's kind of hard to get all the stuff that you need. But if you got a lot of stuff into Endless Tempest, specifically a Greater Affix, and then you Masterwork crit it multiple times, I think this thing could be pretty good, and then maybe you can drop the Harlequin, and you can get way more damage this way. And that would be because you can just run Vasili's Prayer, and then you can get the bonus of attack speed and run Bestial Rampage, and I think it'd be really good. But because it's PTR, it's kind of hard to get everything, again, no trade. But as far as the skill trees goes, I'll mention some of the newer things. Obviously, Stone Burst, brand new skill. Actually, it's pretty good lucky hit chance too. And remember, you're going to be able to get double of these, and the AoE is huge on it. One thing to note with this skill is it is a channeled skill unless you have the aspect, which we'll go over as well, and then I'll show you guys kind of how that works, as it's pretty important for the build. But nothing super out of the ordinary here. It's very similar to Landside. There's a couple of newer things over here. We get increased like movement speed, bonuses when you have just damage as long as you have over 100%, well, above 100%, which at the end of the day, that just means you have to have 1% movement speed because you always have 100%. It just goes up to 200 as the max value. But anyways, Humanity is something new over here. And then we just get all the Earth stuff, and then all those like the Earth and Magic bonuses, and then Cataclysm, and then I had an extra point here, but we could move this over here as well, just so we don't have to ever pop potions. Could be kind of nice. Originally, this is what I want to play. This thing is crazy good. If I was to equip this, we have resistance problems, but ideally I'd get Greater Affix, like all resistance, and then we'd have all of these extra things put in, and it really makes the build way better because you get so many passives on the Druid that really add up, which is awesome. Over here we get right now we have Wild Impulses over here, but big extra damage on our Amulet. But our Amulet could be I actually like this Amulet, to be honest. Even though it's not like multiple GAs or like a lot of passives, the attack speed is quite nice. Willpower is a very nice thing, especially since you can get so much. And that's why I'm not running any Runewords, but if you want to run the Runewords, you can run Petrify, you can run like Ohm for the shout. But at the end of the day, the problem is this build, it is like a channeled skill, but then you also want to eventually move. If you want to, you could run the Barbarian Shout one. It's like a 45x multiplier, so it'd be Lith Ohm, and then you can get the multiplier for like the Berserking, which wouldn't be a bad addition to the build as well. Then we're running Edge Masters because we're always at max resource, and then we have the Companion here. I like this just because it activates poison, and I actually do think that this is just nice for extra damage reduction. The squishiness is definitely a thing with the Druid when you're not like in Bear form. But you can maybe get extra damage reduction on the Paragon. And then we're running Ballistic, so we get an extra 2 to the Earthen Bulwark, which is nice. And obviously for Stone Burst. And then we also have this over here, so it gives us Stone Burst deals more damage. And then when cast above 75, it's immediately at its maximum size, so you don't actually have to channel it. Because normally you have to hold it down, and then it builds up, and then you get to do your big damage. And then we're running Crash Stone over here because we get as much crit as possible. But Starless Skies, Menorach Ring, and then Retaliation, which is kind of normal for all the Earth stuff. And then as far as the Paragon boards, the last thing over here. So there's a glitch with Druid. For some reason, you can't get these. If I could, then I would swap out Exploit for this, and then we could actually get a lot more damage for the boss, because essentially that's where I'd say this skill kind of lacks compared to, like, say, like, well, the Thorns Barb will probably be nerfed, but I mean, that kills the boss in 1 second. You have also, like, the Victimized Rogue that is crazy in DPS. But Exploit for the first one. Then on the second one, we're running Earth and Devastation with Earth and Sky. so we can get the bonus to crowd controlled over here. There is an aspect if you want like where Earth skills automatically apply it, that's fine. But since you get overlaps on the thing and it has like 44 lucky hit chance, I opted to just let like the tempers satisfy that. Then we have human. This is something that we throw in here in ancestral guidance. So this is actually, this is board 2 and then this is board 3. And then board 4, we go into constricting tendrils so we can get some poison. And then we run spirit over here for a lot of crit. And then we actually run this as our 4th board, but we actually connect this way. And if we connect this way, because we can get some additive poison damage, but since we already get all this crowd control over here, it is a little bit more efficient to do it this way. If you count it out, it's usually like 22 from what we didn't need here, but it's really not that bad. It's up to you what you wanted to go for, but this way at the moment was more efficient. But there's also this like damage to elites, which is not that bad if you wanted to go this route and then grab that, but you can do what you want to do with this. Kind of like a draft build, but yeah, heightened malice. Still, there isn't really good multipliers. Oh, by the way, important thing: you cannot run ancestral guidance. It does not work with this build because Menorchic Ring gives you infinite resource, and therefore it doesn't count as spending. However, this one says spending primary resource works when you use the thing, and this one does work with it for some reason, which we can go ahead and show off. So hopefully that will be fixed. If that ever gets fixed, I mean, we would definitely take ancestral guidance, one of the top tier things to grab as well. But what we're going to do now is I do want to show this off as it is pretty important for the build now that we did a little like run for the gameplay. So I want to show you guys what happens if you don't have the aspect, because this skill I 100% would not even play at all. By the way, we did get some new hairstyles for the Druid. We slapped it on. Druid's still probably the bottom tier in terms of like attractiveness, but maybe one day we'll get a good looking Druid. All right. Anyways, actual important stuff. So how the skill works is, if we don't have this, this is how the skill works. So how it works is we hold it down and it'll channel and then it'll pop for damage at the very end. Now, if I have this, I can just push the button. Oh, it has to be at above 75. So let me just activate Cataclysm. And then now I can just cast it at maximum value the whole time. So this thing without it, the skill sucks. Like it just, you would have to channel it. I forgot what it's called in PoE, but there's a giant skill that's fire in it. It's a ring that like gets bigger and bigger. That's the same skill. That's Stone Burst. So basically, if you don't have this, the skill sucks. Now, I wouldn't recommend playing without it. And there seems to be sometimes times where this thing just does crazy damage. I don't know if it's Poison Creeper again, but I definitely want to say that the build could be slightly bugged. But at the end of the day, it was still pretty good. That's the performance of the build. And check the pin. There'll be a link to the build guide. And if there's any other suggestions for this build, let me know down below. I was actually trying to think about running a two-handed just so I can get this all damage multiplier over here. Instead of maybe just going into crit, but it's up to you what you want to run. I was also trying to think about running a rune word in here because I like all the percent bonus on getting the willpower, so I probably wouldn't even want to run 2 rune words with this build because, you know, how the build runs, I guess we can run Petrify, but I feel like it's sacrificing 300 willpower is really big. Remember, every 8 willpower is 1% damage, so losing out on potentially, you know, 600 willpower, that's a lot of damage, especially when you consider how much this adds. I mean, we go from 28 to, I mean, this is just crazy amounts of willpower. Like that alone is just worth so much in terms of like our character's value. But anyways, that is the Stone Burst Druid, and as far as our skills go, that's our skills. Oh, one thing I didn't go over, Spirit Boons. It's pretty much in every single build. With Deer, it's this one. This, I think we could maybe swap to get crit strike damage. It's not bad to get this one as well. And increased duration ultimate, and then every 10th kill will cause your next earth skill to overpower, and that's how we get like those big bursts sometimes of damage. But also, even when I wasn't running this, I think it has to do with Poison Creeper and this skill, or the other skill working. This Poison Creeper has been bugged for so long. It's always been something that leads to just crazy damage numbers. But PTR is about to end, so we could definitely min-max this build a lot more. Like I said, I think this is going to be one of the top tier Druid builds going into the next season, especially if they nerf the Landstorm Druid that is really popular. But anyways, that's the brand new Druid. Let me know your thoughts down below.